Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the conclusions. It's yet another chill session of chit-chatting and talking nonsense about the Ukraine war. No, just joking. The analysis and opinions that I have for the past day of action. Of course, this does not include any action that happened today on the 6th of September because it's still unfolding. If I do breaking news, then I will give you a lot of wrong information because breaking news is breaking. It breaks your head, and then you will start bleeding and hemorrhage blood, and you will die. So I don't want you to die, which is why we only do the past day when everything is already concluded. So so let's go through the front lines and see what's there to talk about. There's nothing really talk about the Kherson, Zaporizhia. We still have this situation where there's fighting reported at Robotine. Oh, that's some terrible arrow. Robotine. We need it to be more chunkier. Yeah, then chunkier a little bit. So the Ukrainian Defense Ministry still talk about the Russians attacking in the area of Robotine. And then the Russian Defense Ministry talks about Orekhiv. So they talk about Orekhiv. So it's a kind of a different thing. But yeah, there's some actions, but nothing really big deal is happening. The situation over in the Donetsk fronts continue to unfold in this very interesting way. Fighting is reported in the towards Velika Novosilka, towards Novoukranka, in the area of Peshistivka, which probably is just consolidation, Voleda and Vodiane. There is some rumors about Zoleta Neva being captured, according to some pro-Russian sources on X, which I haven't seen information about that, to be honest. So yeah, I'm not sure. No, for me, it's always the same old shit. It doesn't matter. It's pro-Ukrainian or pro-Russian. If they claim something, make sure that you fact check them, like in 2-3 days time. Make sure that whatever they say, they have a reason why it didn't happen because they claim very loudly, or no, they just keep quiet about it. The worst ones are those that just keep quiet about it, and then no, there's no accountability. Then if you continue to follow, then it's your own fault that you want to get duped. So otherwise, I'm still waiting for information about capture of Zolota Neva. There is claims, but I didn't see anything from my trusted sources. I just leave it at that. There's no more news regarding Vodiane, about Voleda. So I think it's just going to be yet another major intel drop in sometime soon. Nothing over at Konstantinivka region as well. And then we go to this southern part of Pokrovsk. So important thing to note is that the Russians, we have been wondering, right? Though suddenly everything has paused, has slowed down, and why the Russians not going for Pokrovsk anymore, or is it the Ukrainians have actually come in to reinforce and actually push the Russians, hold the Russians on their line? That could also be possible, but it looks like the Russians decided to go southward, and this is interesting. So instead of going towards Pokrovsk, from the multiple vectors of attack that they are currently launching on, they went south. So and the frontline change is over in this towards Khernik, as well as in the southern flank of Ukraine. And the Russian forces go towards this direction. And from this point onward, the Russians will be able to attack Ukraine from two different directions. Lysivka, honestly, is as good as gone already. The Ukrainian mapping did this they like to do this kind of thing because this is why I don't like gray zones. They draw Russian firm control on one side of the street, the other side they put it as a gray zone. Like very convenient. So it was for me, I think Lysivka is actually already taken by the Russians, and the Russian forces is going to be able to attack Ukraine in two different directions. Ukraine is going to be in deep danger, and the Russians are already pushing south towards Khernik, and this will lead to yet another major battle. Khernik is another place with train station, and it basically is this pivotal town that covers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 satellite towns. Like it have roads leading to all these different towns. So let's change to another. You can see how Khernik, there's this street. So we draw out the streets. So this is 1, 2, and leads to Zeleny Druha, Zeleny Pershi. So this leads down to Voschenka, leads out to Izmailivka. So you can see this is the street, this is the road design, You can see how important Kharkiv is. The Russians are now already attacking towards Kharkiv, and by taking Kharkiv, the Russians could take this high ground, which will essentially covers all the satellite towns or villages around this region here. So it's actually pretty strategically important in this tactical sense in this area. And this would also, if the Russians take Kharkiv, it would also collapse the entire Nevelske region. So as I I already mentioned, the Ukrainian lines around this Nevelske is very strong. The Russians have no idea how to break through this area, and it's just one big chunk of farmland. But the problem is now the Russians are hitting from the rear position. They hit it from behind, and hitting from behind is like picking up a soap in the bathroom. Is very dangerous, and the fact that Kharkiv controls all these satellite settlements basically would basically means the end of any Ukrainian forces around here. It will be operational encirclement. The Russians are already at Krasnohorivka, and Ukrainian chopstick over here. There's this chopstick. These two chopstick around here. This is actually the remaining part of the Krasnohorivka. In case you do not know, the Russians are already doing some kind of operation around there. They are not pushing in very deep yet, but it's technically impossible for the Ukrainians to actually escape from this route. They cannot go through Krasnohorivka. The only way is to go back all the way to the satellite villages and going through Kharkiv. And then the fact that the fighting is now just off Kharkiv is extremely concerning. This is a huge chunk of land. We're talking about from Kharkiv all the way to Nevelske is around 13, almost 14 kilometers. This is a huge expanse of ground. And from north to south to Krasnohorivka is around 9 kilometers. So this is a very big piece of land that is now on the verge of operational encirclement. It's important to note here is also water body. There's probably a small little bridge around here, but that's about it. And it will cause a mass panic. Everything will just collapse suddenly. And once it start to collapse suddenly, Krasnohorivka will get the chopstick very easily, and then they can start to eat noodles. So this is actually a very significant development. And once the Russians take Kharkiv, all these satellites is going to be in deep danger. Ukrainians will start to try to plug this hole around here, because if they don't plug the hole, then the Russians will take Masimilivka. Fighting would then reach Kurakhove, and Kurakhove is basically this HQ, this operational command base, this headquarters of the Ukrainian operations of this sector of the Donetsk front. And you can see how they have entrenched this position. The Ukrainians basically have a lot of lines basically surrounding Kurakhove, and they are also defended and backed by this Voschar River in the north. So this is a very strategically positioned HQ, and they are now getting attacked from the north, which is actually the weak spot. So if you try to attack from straight on, it's going to be very difficult. But now the Russians are heading from the rear position. So again, very reminiscent of the battle for Singapore in the World War II, where the Japanese basically entered from the north. Singapore was said to be the fortress, the fortress city, and then somehow the Japanese just went from the rear position, going through the forest. Actually, there's no forest to go through. They just went down the highway, then easily. So now the Ukrainians are facing the same big problem around here. They have to hold Kharkiv, and not holding Kharkiv will be a big problem. The railway didn't seem to go south. Yeah, the railway just go one round. Yeah, this is an interesting railway. Yeah, you can actually do merry-go-round here, I think. So anyway, this is the situation. The Russians suddenly prioritize going for Kurakhove, and this pincer is actually now active. Amazing. When everybody's focus is actually Pokrovsk, suddenly the Russians actually went for a pincer for Kurakhove. So amazing tactical decision or strategic decision by the Russians. So and the Ukrainian forces is now concentrating to defend Pokrovsk. So what a bummer right now. And of course, we have to address this confusing situation over in New York. Ukrainian forces currently claim that they have the northern part of New York, whereas the Russians have the rest of New York. This is how it looks like. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not, because we have consistent fighting being reported at Nelipivka. So where the fighting comes from, we have to also ask this question. So where exactly is the fighting? Is it here, here, or here? Or is it here? So we do not know where the fighting at Nelipivka is actually being fought over. We have no idea why is that. And there is also reports of fighting towards Leonidivka and Skibinivka. And how is the fighting reaching Skibinivka and Leonidivka? This is always something that I find it really weird. And we already have a Skibinivka on the 2nd and the 5th. Leonidivka is on the 1st and the 5th. So there must be something happening around here that both Russian Defense Ministry and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry is talking about battles around this area here. But we still do not know. No sources have information about this, so we have to wait, because the most updated, the most accurate information tend to be operational secret on both sides, both the Russian and the Ukrainian side. So whatever the sources can tell us, yeah, that is the most that they can tell us. Like, even if they have sources on the ground from the soldiers directly, they know some soldiers, the soldiers are still bound by a military discipline. They have to keep operational secrets. They cannot just blurt everything out to everyone. And similarly, Raiba also will not compromise their own operations. Similarly for Deep State UA, especially Deep State UA have direct ties with the Ukrainian military and Ukrainian government. They do hold back information. In fact, in their latest summary for this day of operation, they even say that there is good news tomorrow. Why can't you tell it today if you know that it's coming tomorrow? So they already knew something had happened, but they deliberately withheld information. So it's important to note, everything that you see on the internet is because someone wants you to see it. So similar, so for whatever you're seeing right now, everything that I show you is because I want you to see it. I don't report every little single detail. Similarly, this goes for everything else. So everything you watch online, don't trust it. Don't trust Sun Tzu, because Sun Tzu don't have internet. No, I know, a lot of people just look at the Sun Tzu's quote and think that he said something brilliant about the internet. There's no internet during the Sun Tzu era, right? So yeah. And there, of course, then we have this very weird situation. Similarly, where the Ukrainians and the Russians talk about Stupovsky. The Russians talk about Stupovsky, Ukrainians talk about Priteshny and Vinopilia. How the fighting reached there, I have no freaking idea. Do the Russians have the canal region? I have no idea. So we have to wait. So this is pretty significant, these developments, but there's no information about them. Then we of course have the Russians taking the opposite side of Kalinina. I'm not exactly sure what settlement is this. Is this part of Chasivia or is it part of Kalinina? We're not exactly sure. Deep State UA did mention about the capture of this entire area. But if this the other part is also Kalinina, then Kalinina is actually not captured. But we shall wait and see. Tentatively, I still do not believe that the Russians will want to push in this direction. It just leads them to nowhere. So moving up, Silver's Run continues the same battles, but we don't have anything. There's no updates regarding this area, which I believe that the front line actually looks like this right now. There's still no updates about this, so we just have to wait as well. So a lot of fog of war right now. It's very foggy, very foggy. So turn on your headlights. Put high beam. Make sure that you drive safely. If not, then you may bump into a Garand drone or FPV drone. Then it will be a bit messy. So when all your limbs are all over the place, it's a bit hard to bathe. So yeah. So anyway, otherwise the Oskil fronts, generally they have all the fightings, but no updates. We have some update regarding Peshchani. Peshchani is a bit important in the sense that from Kolesnikivka to the front line change is now 3 kilometers. So the Russians are really getting very close to the settlements here, because once the fighting reached Kolesnikivka, then the road can't be used anymore. The Ukrainians will not be able to travel between north and south of this region here, then it will be a problem. So the Russians are pushing in multiple directions. As you can see in the reports, there is fighting reported towards Khrushchevka, Kolesnivka, Kurakhove. Previously, we have fighting reported towards Novosinove. The Russians also mentioned about Kisharivka, so probably some shelling. So the Russians are a bit more serious here. This is not the level of offensive that we saw in the Pokrovsk front previously, but they are making frontline changes here, which means they are very serious with the offensive over this location. But I got a feeling that the Russians will do a lot more to try to fatten up this base, this entire rear position, before they go for this major attack to prevent a potential Ukrainian pincer. So that will be a disaster. So I think we shall see this continue to develop. The Russians will start to try to at least close up this gap around Berestove and the south of Pischane. So I think this will continue to develop, and which is why we have the fighting reported towards Lozova, where the Russians are pushing out from the Novosibirsk region. So I think this is currently happening, but the Ukrainians are putting a very good fight around here, so it's not easy for the Russians. So nothing much at the Kupiansk front. At the Kharkiv front, generally speaking, honestly, there's nothing really much to talk about. We have the return of fighting reported at Staresia. The last one was on the 27th of August. That's around a week ago. But generally, the status did not really change much. Ukrainian did try to counter attack in the region of Lipsy against the forest. They even make a video about it, very exciting video of them bombarding and then letting troops in the forest and then firing into the trees and leaves, which I'm not sure if they ever see. They even know if there's any enemy there or not. They just attack. So but that allows them to capture some ground. So that's at least something. So otherwise, that's all from the Kharkiv region. And Kursk region generally, we have the major updates, which is actually the closing of the front line. I already mentioned this before. So I just that now I will be changing the Russian mapping to reflect my views that the northern area is now fully under Russian control, because the lack of information in this area, in this northern area, just shows that the Ukrainians have given up in the area. They are now focusing on consolidating their gains, which is why we are seeing a lot of fighting around this area, with Ukraine fighting for Kamishevka, Marievka, as well as Malaya Lognia. The Russians are bombarding or attacking the region of Olovka, Novaya Sorokina, as well as Malaya Lognia. It's unclear if this is an attack or it is just simply shelling. The Russian mapping has already given up this entire area, but somehow in terms of just purely reporting, there's no change. The Russians are still attacking these regions, and we just have to continue to wait and see how this continue to develop. The best is we have some kind of geolocation. The only geolocation we have is Ukrainians around here. The fact that they are here, which is why it triggers the Russian mapping to give up the entire southern part, believing that the lines is now more straightened in this way. So I have to respect Ryba for their mapping. So yeah, we just follow through for now. And if we have any other information, we will just invalidate their mapping, and then we just change our mapping on our side. So you are with me, you are the DPA army, so we are working together. Just don't get too caught up about this source or other source. No, we are just gathering the information together to try to get the best idea what the hell is happening. But I also stick to my trusted sources, because I have been through a lot of sources over the 2.5 years plus, and there are sources that just don't give very accurate information, a lot of speculations, a lot of premature claims that cannot be corroborated. So that's just important to note. Otherwise, the rest of the strategic situation at the Kursk didn't really change much. So it's about more or less the same thing, except that we didn't see any reports of Ukrainian attacks towards Komarovka this time round. But that's about it. Everything else more or less is the same. So anyway, this is the strategic and tactical this is the conclusions for the past day. for the 5th of September. So do press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.